mail, no unread emails. Double tap to open, use 3D touch to show home screen actions, actions available. App switcher. Great tournament, activate, great tournament, great tournament, home, back button. Great, show, the great tournament, part 2. Swamp Castle 2.png, new game, restore game from the great tournament, radio button, the great tournament. Period. For the glory, the staff of power. Purchase the, next button. What is your first name? Text field. Double tap to, text field is editing, insertion point at end. Inserted Charles. Next button. What is your family name? Text field. Double tap to, insertion point at end. Next, text field is editing, Vandenberg. Next button. Your name is Charles Vandenberg. Yes, radio button, checked, 1 of 2. No, next button. Please select a level of difficulty. Easy, radio button, check. No, next button. Did you want to randomize settings from the great? Yes, radio button, checked, 1 of. Did you want to randomize settings from the great tournament? Yes, radio button. No, next button. It is highly recommended that you play the first game, however, next button. What if I wanted to? The guard shrugged. You mean show, great tournament, show. Abby is more than a bit upset. She stares the guard down as if she is trying to make his head explode with her mind. If the guard is nervous, he doesn't show it. You mean, the guard shrugs. The festival should provide weapons for each of, Abby is more than a bit upset. She stares the guard down as if she is trying to make his head explode with her mind. If the guard is nervous, he doesn't show it. I'm sorry ma'am, but there are no weapons in the festival. You're going to have to leave the knives here with us, replies the guard, with a slight stammer in his voice. I'm here for the knife throwing competition. How am I supposed to do that without knives? Abby asks sarcastically. The festival should provide weapons for each event, he replies. You mean those dull metal shards you call throwing knives? No wonder most people never win at the knife throwing stand, says Abby. It wasn't like this last year. The guard shrugs. New mayor, new rules. What if I wanted to join the archery competition? Could I bring my own bow? The guard hesitates. That is different. Oh, I assure you, I could injure you with a walking stick, says Abby. The guard gulps. In fact, I would shove that walking stick so far up your... You step forward before Abby can finish her sentence. I think what my wife is trying to say is you should have made it clear that weapons were not allowed for the festival. The guard seems relieved to be talking to you now. Apart from nobles, no one can bring weapons inside the We are nobles, you dolt, Abby exclaims. The guard looks at her incredulously. Abby steps a little closer to the guard. If I was... The guard seems unsure. Next button. You look at the guard, trying to give him one more chance. Actually, I am the Lord of Redwood, so if the rule is only noble... The guard rubs his chin. If you two are nobles, you are the most unique ones I have ever seen. Charlotte chimes in. My dad won the great tournament and my mom is the best knife thrower in all of Magencio. The guard laughs. You have some imagination, kid. You're telling me that... Charlotte nods with full confidence. So much for trying to stay low-key, you mutter to yourself. The guard. I was born here. Sutton is my home, my wife is from here, and we... Next button. The guard nods, thinking it over. This is ridiculous, says Abby. Fine, here, take my knives. She hands him 3 from her belt. Happy? The guard nods and places the knives in a box beside him. You can enter now. As you walk by, Abby gets close to the guard's face, forcing all his attention on her. If those knives are damaged or lost, I will hold you personally responsible. The guard nods and Abby walks away smiling. Next button. You, Abilene, and Charlotte walk inside the festival grounds. You, Abilene, and Charlotte walk inside the festival grounds. I didn't expect you to give up your knives so easily, you say to Abby. Abby laughs. Charlotte, do you have them? Yes, mother, replies Charlotte. I swiped them when the guard wasn't looking. Good girl, exclaims Abby. Charlotte hands Abby the 3 throwing knives she had hidden in her trousers. Did you seriously just use our daughter as a smuggler? You ask. Abby shrugs. I figured it would be a good test for her and she passed with flying colors, might I add. She gives Charlotte a kiss on the cheek. Besides, I had a backup dagger hidden on my ankle. In a pinch I guess I could have used that. Laugh, radio button, checked, 1. Shake my head, radio button, unchecked, 2 of. Next button. You know this would have been a lot easier if you'd allowed me to bring an escort of guards with us, you comment. And have a bunch of farmers with swords you call guards, even though they barely know how to swing a sword, escort us? I don't think so. It would have only attracted attention. Plus, we can take care of ourselves, can't we, Charlotte? Charlotte nods. Nobody can beat Dad in a fair fight, and if the fight was unfair, you would even the odds somehow, mother. Abby smiles with pride. Pat Charlotte, I am not sure if we... Next, I am not sure if we are teaching... Next button. Abby laughs. Would you rather she grow up to be some 2020 noble with a stick up her butt? You shrug. I guess you have a good point. Next button. Hey, father, can I compete in one of the tournament? You rub your chin and thought. Why don't you stick with us instead? Maybe next year you can... Next, text field, next button. Charlotte frowns and raises her hands. Unbelievable. You and Abby both look at each other and start laughing. Charlotte sees a group of her friends and asks if she can at least join them. You nod and she runs off. I better not see you competing in a joust. You yell as Charlotte runs off with her friends. I better not see you competing in a joust. You yell as Charlotte runs off with her friends. Next button. Anything you wanted to do before I sign up for the knife throwing event? Asks Abby. I am really craving the funnel cake. Radio. Mind if we? I wouldn't mind taking a next button. Sounds good to me. Reply. Next button. You order a funnel cake. When you get it, Abby takes several. Hey, if you wanted one, you could. No thanks. I am more than. That isn't what I meant. You reply. Abby laughs and you both start walking towards the game stands. Next button. Being here always brings back a lot of memories, you state. Abby nods in quiet reflection. You're awfully quiet. Abby looks up. Oh, sorry, I am just thinking about what is the best way to hustle that young nobleman there out of his purse. He thinks he is doing a good job at the knife stand. I still remember the con you ran on Theres. You should have seen his face afterwards. Abby laughs. That was fun. First, that wasn't the only time we met here at the knife stand. Abby smiles. Oh, yeah, you visited when I was hustling that one noble. You nod. From what? Totally exposed your con. Radio button. Helped you take the man's money. Radio button. Next button. Abby grins. Yeah, I was rather upset about that, but when you invited me to tag along with you and Theres, I quickly forgot about it. Next button. Next button. Watch and support Abby instead. Radio button. Sign up to the intermediate tournament. Radio. What do you do? Watch and support Abby instead. Radio button. Next button. I would much rather watch you destroy all the competition, you reply. Abby laughs. You're a wise man. Next button. Apparently, the main tournament has 3 rounds. Abby's first opponent is a young kid who whirls the knives around him with impressive style. This guy looks like he might be skilled, you say. Abby scoffs. Please, this guy is all show and no skill, you watch. The young man goes first. His first throw hits the outer circle. The man frowns and takes a moment to concentrate before throwing again. His second throw is better as it hits the inner circle. On his third throw, the dagger lands close to the bullseye, but the judge rules it as an inner circle hit, much to the young man's dismay. You're up next, little lady, says the young man. If you want to lose the stiff and get some pointers at my place later, just let me know. Abby fakes a smile and steps forward. Before she throws, she looks at you and smiles. She then looks at the young man and holds her hands up in L shape. The young man looks back at her, confused. Next button. Abby throws her first knife and it hits the top of the inner circle. You're a little puzzled by this, since Abby rarely misses anything. Her second shot is lower and hits a perfect bullseye. Technically she has already won in points. She then closes her eyes and throws the last knife. It hits to the right, barely within the inner circle. You take a second look at the board, and notice the marks make a perfect L shape. She holds up her hand again making the same L shape and looks at the young man. Looks like you lose. You laugh. Abby leans back against your chest with her arms up and outstretched, as if you're a comfortable chair of some kind. Next button. Her next opponent is an older man. He doesn't say much at all. The organizer says in this round they will alternate shots. Abby goes first. Abby throws a near-perfect bullseye. The organizer removes the knife and the older man goes. He throws a near-perfect bullseye as well. Abby looks impressed. After the knife is removed she throws a second time, again hitting a near-perfect bullseye. The old man throws and ends up hitting the inner circle. Abby throws a third and final time, again hitting a bullseye. The man doesn't throw his last shot, instead he nods in respect and walks away. Next button. Abby makes it to the finals where she is facing another young woman. Apparently, her name is Simia. For some reason, Simia gives you a long look before getting ready to throw. Abby walks up to you. Do you know this girl? No, at least I don't think so, you reply. She was eyeing you like a piece of meat, replies Abby, and not in the good way. More like, I want to put you on a skewer and cook you. I have no idea, you reply honestly. I'm okay, says Abby. Next button. The girl Simia is chosen to throw first. Each thrower will alternate their shots. Simia throws first, and she hits a near-perfect bullseye. Abby walks up and throws, and she also hits a near-perfect bullseye. Simia walks past her without saying a word, picks up a knife, stares at her intensely instead of the target, and throws the knife without even looking. She hits a near-perfect bullseye again. Abby seems a bit flustered by this, as this is normally a thing she would do. Abby thinks about doing the same thing, but Simia looks away, not even paying attention to her throw. As a result, Abby throws the dagger normally. Again, she hits a near-perfect bullseye. Simia walks up for her final throw, and she grabs the dagger and begins tossing it back and forth between her left and right hand. She does this about 3 times, then flips the dagger in the air, catching it with her left hand. She then spins around, and throws it all in a single motion. It hits a near-perfect bullseye. The crowd cheers when Simia does this. Abby seems a bit flustered now and grits her teeth. Tell Abby to ignore her and throw normally. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 2. Remain silent and see what Abby does. Radio. Next button. Next. Next button. She walks up and throws the dagger in her normal. Abby calms down and nods. Show stats button. Abby calms down and nods. She walks up and throws the dagger in her normal Abby way. She hits a perfect bullseye. Next button. The tournament organizer steps forward. Well, it seems we have a tie. I will ask each participant to throw a dagger, and whoever gets closest to the center wins. Simia steps forward, concentrates for several seconds and then throws the dagger. It hits a perfect bullseye dead center. The crowd is stunned in silence for a few seconds, and then they cheer. You're not exactly sure how Abby can win at this point. Perhaps she can tie and they would throw again. Abby puts her foot up on a stand and raises her dress slightly to reveal another throwing dagger hanging around her ankle. She grabs it and pulls down her dress. The dagger is a bit longer and larger than the typical throwing dagger. She then walks up to the throwing area and concentrates very hard. You have never seen Abby take anything this seriously before. Several seconds pass before she finally throws. When she does throw, she throws with amazing power and accuracy. Next button. The knife hits dead center and, the handle being slightly bigger, pushes Samia's blade slightly over. A couple of judges go out and measure the impact points. Next button. While Samia and Abby wait for the results, neither says anything to the other. Eventually the judges come forward with a decision. Next button. This is a rather unique situation, says one of the judges. Though Samia's blade was dead center, it has now slightly moved. As a result, we declare Abilene Vandenberg the winner. Abby grins and then nods at Samia in a respectful way. Samia scoffs and walks away. Abby walks over to you with a half smile on her face. That was incredible. Radio button, checked, 1 of 2. Lucky shot. Next button. Abby shrugs. Thanks, I am not sure if it was entirely legal, but the judges didn't seem to mind. Next button. After Abby collects her winnings, which was a total of 500 gold pieces, you leave in search of your daughter. Next button. Eventually you find her in a dice game with some older boys and girls. Watch her, radio button, checked, 1 of 2. Tell her it's time to leave, radio button, next button. You decide to watch her to see what she does. Next button. Next button. Charlotte grabs the dice, breathes on them for good luck, and then rolls. Next button. The 2 dice land almost simultaneously, one is a 5 and the other is a 6, which totals to 11. Charlotte wins the bet. The children look at the dice in disbelief, and a few are hesitant to pay. One of the children kicks the dice in anger. Charlotte goes to pick them up. There is no need to be angry, replies Charlotte. The older boy moves forward in a threatening motion, and at this moment you decide to step in. The older boy stops in his tracks and puts it. The older boy moves forward in a threatening motion, and at this moment you decide to step in. The older boy stops in his tracks and puts down his. The older boy moves forward in a threatening motion, and at this moment you decide to step in. Charlotte, it's time to leave. Come along now. The older boy stops in his tracks and puts down his fists. Charlotte nods and walks over to you and Abby. Before she leaves, she says to the other children, "It was nice playing with you all." Next button. Charlotte hands Abby a few buttons. "Here is your take, Mom," says Charlotte. Abby smiles and says, "Thank you." "Your take?" you ask, looking confused. Charlotte then hands over the dice to Abby. "Yes, Father, Mother was the one who showed me the trick with the dice." "What trick?" you ask. Charlotte is about to answer, but Abby interrupts. "A professional never reveals their secrets, Charlotte." "Not even to her dad?" asks Charlotte pitifully. Abby sighs. "Well, I guess that would depend on what the father would do with that information." Abby looks over at you, expecting a reply. "I am just curious how you performed this trick, that's all." Radio button, checked, 1 of 2. That depends on the answer, radio button, next button. Abby nods her head. "Well, Mom told me to hold 2 dice in this hand." Charlotte holds up her right hand, and to also hold 2 dice in this hand, she holds up her left hand. "Put them together and pretend to blow on them, but what I am really doing is dropping the dice from my left hand into my sleeve and eventually my pocket. The rest is easy, I then roll and say it will be an 11. You nod. "You're using a weighted die. Risky as they don't always work." "The one Mom made does," replies Charlotte. "Tell Charlotte it's wrong to cheat people, radio button. Urge Charlotte to be careful, radio, next button. Urge Charlotte to, next button." Charlotte replies, "It was just buttons, Father, show stats," but Charlotte replies, "It was just buttons, Father." "Still it's the principle of the thing," you reply. Charlotte nods. "Yes, Father. I won't, next button." As you walk outside, the guard that stops you earlier approaches. "I am so sorry, Lord Charles, I was able to confirm your identity. Please forgive my ignorance." "You were just doing your job, don't worry about it." Radio button, "Fine, but you'd best not cause any further problems." Radio button, unchecked, 2 of 2. Next button. The guard nods. Next button. You are about to leave when Abby smiles and turns around. "Oh, guard, could you please retrieve my knives you took earlier?" The guard nods. "Certainly, ma'am." The guard goes about digging through confiscated goods, and after a few minutes his face grows pale. "Something wrong?" asks Abby. No, just give me a few more seconds," says the guard. "I know I put them somewhere." You give Abby a look, and she sighs. "Let me help you," says Abby. She walks over to the guard and begins looking through the box. After a few seconds she says, "Oh, here they are." The guard looks very relieved. Abby waves goodbye and you continue heading on your way back to Redwood. Next button. Next. Keep walking, radio button. Help the old. On the way back, you run into an old merchant having trouble moving his cart. It appears to be stuck in the mud. Help the old man, radio button, checked. Keep, next button. Even though it delays you, you decide to help the old man. With your help, he is able to get the cart out of the mud. Next button. Next button. We are actually heading there to. "Oh, Redwood." You ask him where he is going. "Redwood," he replies. "I heard it is a good place to trade." "Oh, what else have you heard?" Radio button. "We are actually heading there to. Next button. Okay, well, be careful. It can be next button. "I would travel with you, but I would only slow you 3 down, sighs the old man. After eating a few apples, you wave goodbye to the old man and continue on your way. Next button. You continue walking until you see a group of 3 rough-looking men blocking the road up ahead. The largest of the 3 is carrying a large club. Abby, you tell her to stand back as you walk a bit. You continue walking until you see a group of 3 rough-looking men blocking the road up ahead. The largest of the 3 is carrying a large club. Abby, who is wearing her traveling cloak, instinctively grabs Charlotte with her left hand and then puts her other hand inside her cloak, presumably to grab one of her throwing daggers. You tell her to stand back as you walk a bit closer to talk to the men. They look at you without expression. What do you say? Nice day, isn't it? You picked an odd spot to stop, gentlemen. Radio button. Next button. You picked an odd spot to stop. Next button. 2 of the men continue staring at you without saying a word. The larger man walks up and looks you over. Ah, they probably don't have anything we would want. Let them pass. The men step aside. Keep moving. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 2. Ask them what they are doing out there. Next button. As you are about to leave, 2 of the men get the large man's attention and point at a cart up the road. The large man tells the 2 men to go stop the cart, then he looks at the 3 of you and says, seems like something more interesting has come along. You all can. Are you planning on robbing that cart? Radio button. Let's go. Radio button. Checked. Are you planning on robbing that cart? Let's. Next button. The man replies, yeah, what is it to you? I don't think I can allow that, you reply. The large man is extremely angry now. He yells at his 2 friends that are already halfway to the cart. Gorn, Horace, you 2 stop the cart. I will take care of the brave hero here. Next button. The large man swings his club at you. Next button. You manage to jump back and avoid his blow. Show step. Next button. The man gets ready to swing again. Next button. The man hits you hard in the head with a club. You fall to the ground, dizzy. The giant of the man lifts the club again to finish you and Abby steps in and throws a dagger at the man's leg. He groans in pain and falls to his knees, dropping his club. This gives you enough time to stand back up. Next button. Abby readies another dagger to throw, but seeing this, the large man dives forward and attempts to tackle you. Next button. The large man tackles you to the ground and begins hitting you with both his hands simultaneously, like some kind of crazy gorilla. You try punching him in the chest. Next button. You try punching him in the chest. Next button. The man laughs at your pitiful attempt to punch him. He begins to strangle you now. You start losing consciousness and your windpipe feels like it's about to break. Next button. Suddenly, Abby runs up and drives 2 daggers deep into the man's back. He roars and stands up. Abby hangs on to the daggers and he attempts to fling her off. You have to rub your eyes a couple of times to make sure what you're seeing is real. Next button. After you regain your composure, you quickly get up and pick up the giant club off the ground. You hit the giant man hard in the chest. At the same time, Abby starts stabbing him with her daggers. Eventually the man falls over. You're fairly sure the man is unconscious, but Abby kicks him hard in the face for good measure. Next button. By now the 2 other bandits have stopped messing with the merchant's cart. Next button. Text. Next. They look at each other. By now the 2 other bandits have stopped messing with the merchant's cart and turn around to see their. Next button. The 2 men pull out daggers and charge forward. You fight the man on the left while Abby fights the man on the right. Abby kicks one of the men in the knees and slashes at his chest. Blood sprays everywhere. The other man brings his dagger down at you with a stabbing motion. Next button. You manage to dodge the blow and strike back with a blow of your own. You stab the man in the chest and he falls over, dying. Abby fights the other bandit and finishes him off by slicing his throat. You both look at each other to make sure the other one is okay. You suddenly realize Charlotte is sitting there, staring. Abby runs up and covers the child's eyes and tells her to look away. Charlotte appears to be in shock. You make your way to the closest town, which happens to be the town you just came from, Sutton. You notify the guards there of what happened and they go retrieve the bodies of the bandits. You send a message to Edic, and he sends a small contingent of guards to escort you and your family back to Redwood. Next button. When you arrive at Redwood, you and Edic discuss the bandits you ran into. He tells you that it has become a growing problem as of late. Most of the bandits are coming from Brunick, since there's a severe food crisis over there. Lady Antonia hasn't done anything to prevent it. He tells you that Redwood has been lucky enough not to have any bandit raids yet. Next button. Edic tells you that this might be a good time to put into motion the plan of building defenses you have both been talking about first. Next button. Village gold, 2,750. Pet sees economy, 1. Merchants, 1. Guards, level of guards, Redwood defenses. Next text. Next button. Did you want to see plans for the keep? You nod and Edic hands over the designs. We have already set the groundwork for the keep. How much will this project cost? Well, it depends on how you nod. And for more, about 2 or 3 times. What do you say? I want a basic keep build. 800 G. I want a medium-sized keep build. I want a large keep build. 2005. Checked. On second thought, I am not sure if we need a keep. Radio. Next button. On second thought, I am not sure. On second. Next button. Next. Text field. Next button. Sounds like a good plan, you reply. Edic. Edic. Show stats button. Edic looks surprised. Oh, I thought you wanted this project completed as soon as I did, but we are basically. Edic rubs his chin. Sounds like a good plan. Next button. Text. Next button. Well, since that is settled, did you want to manage some other affairs concerning Redwood? Next button. Okay, says Edic. What do you have in mind? Next button. Edic nods. How many guards do you want to hire? Next button. Edic nods. How many guards do you want to hire? Peasants, 124. Guards, 21. Guards. Gold. Hire 1 guard. Hire 5 guards. Hire 10 guards. I am done with hire 10 guards. I am done with training. Next button. Edict nods. How many guards do you? Peasants. 114. Next button. Edict nods. How many? Peasant. Guard. Gold. Hire 1. Hire 5 guards. Hire 10 guards. 1000 GP. 10 peasants. I am done with training guards. Radio button. Next button. Edict nods. How many guards do you want to hire? Guard. Gold. Hire 1 guard. Hire 5 guards. 500 GP. 5 peasants. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 4. I am next button. Edict nods. How peasants? Not next button. I am done with training guards. Next button. What would you like to look at? Next button. Edict nods. How many guards do you want to hire? Next button. What would you like to look at? Next button. That set improve the village. Set the tax rate. Radio button. Improve the village. Radio button. That next button. How would you like to improve Redwood? Roads 2/10. Marketplace schools 1/10. Marketplace 0/10. Market school improve the roads. Improve the marketplace. Invest in a specific improve the marketplace. 50 GP. Improve the roads. 50 GP. Radio button. Check. Improve schools. Explain improve. I am done improving Redwood. Next button. How would you like to improve Redwood? Road marketplace 0/school. Improve the roads. 50 GP. Improve the market. Invest in a specific area of trade. Improve the marketplace. 50 G. Uncheck. Invest. Improve school. Invest. Improve the market. Invest in a specific area. Improve schools. 50. Uncheck. I am next button. Areas of trade. I am done investing in areas of trade. Radio. Checked. Next. Text field. Next button. Next. I am done improving Redwood. Next button. I am done improving Redwood. Next button. What would you like to look at? Train and equip additional guardsmen. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 5. Train merchants. Radio button. Improve the village. Radio button. Set the tax rate. Radio button. Unchecked. Check. That is all. Radio button. Unchecked. 5 of 5. Check. Next button. Edict nods and puts away his papers. You decide to leave. Next button. Where do you want to go? Visit Sir Robert. Dimmed. Radio. Go home. Radio button. Checked. 2 of 2. Next. Text field. Next button. You decide to go home. Over the next few weeks, you receive sporadic reports of bandit raids near the surrounding villages. Edict keeps a vigilant eye and makes sure the guards do regular patrols around Redwood. Reports come in from the capital that Lady Antonia, the leader of Brunnick, is making some bold moves by attacking smaller kingdoms, claiming territory, and in one case, installing a puppet government. She has next button. Soon winter is over and spring is here. You have earned 112 gold pieces in village revenue. Next button. Edict wants to know if you would like to examine the report on Redwood's current status. Sure. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 2. No. Next button. Redwood. Treasury. 112. Defense. Roads. 3. Marketplace. Schools. Population. Peasants. 108. Left. Merch areas. Farming. 2/10. Pale. Hunting. Fletching. Herbology. Mining. 1/10. Blacksmithing. 1/10. Next button. Gold. 112. After looking. Build a small keep. 800 GP. Increase level of guard training. 1 rank. 300 GP. View the latest report. Radio button. Checked. Hire former soldier. That is all for now. Radio button. Next button. Redwood. Treasury. Fletching. 1/10. Pelts and furs. 1 fletching. Black net. Text field. 9A5. Next button. Next. Text. Next. That is all for now. Radio button. Unchecked. Next button. Next. Ignore the request. Radio button. Unchecked. Go immediately. Radio button. What should you do? One day you're outside when Edict approaches and tells you that there is a letter from the capital. When you watch, go immediately. Next button. Ignore. Go immediately. Radio button. Check. Check. Ignore. Next button. Edict organizes a unit of guards to escort you to the capital. Edict, you're in charge while I am away. Watch over things for me. Radio button. Edict, my wife is in charge while I am away. Follow her every command. Dimmed. Radio button. Unchecked. Edict, you're in charge while I am away. Watch over. Edict. Next button. Visit the shops. Radio button. What should you do? Visit the dungeon. Radio button. Go to the pub. Radio button. Rest for tomorrow. Radio button. Unchecked. 4 of. Next button. Next button. You receive word that the king has called all the lords to gather for an important announcement. Next button. You make your way to the capital's castle. You go to a room that has been prepared for you. Next button. After you get ready, you start heading to the royal court around the time the announcement is scheduled for. Next button. On the walk there, you see a familiar face. Next button. Hey, Charles, says Varys. Varys, what are you doing here? You ask. I could ask you the same thing. Apparently I was summoned by the Princess Helena. Summoned by Princess Helena, not the king? Varys nods. Hey, do you think we have enough time to grab a drink and some food? As much as I would love to catch up, I need to attend the meeting at the royal court. As much as I know. Escort me? Varys shrugs. That was what I was told. You were never that great of a guard. Sounds good to me. Radio button. Next button. You were never that great of a guard. Radio button. Varys shrugs. That was what you were. Sounds good to me. Radio. Next button. Excellent. Seeing you feel. Me too. You reply. Me too. Next button. You and Varys continue walking towards the castle. Next button. When you enter the royal court, you can't help but notice how many officials have been packed inside. It looks like every lord and knight of stature is present here, you mutter. Varys nods. That, and then some. You find 2 empty seats and sit down. Next button. Hannah throne. PNG image Princess Hannah. Next text field. Next button. Next button. There are several whispers throughout the hall. Hannah puts up her hand. Next button. The nobles start discussing how the king's death will impact the realm. Questions on how to move forward are raised quickly. Next button. Princess Anna raises her hand. I think the best way to do this would be to take a vote. Agree. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 2. Next button. The king's advisor, Bernard, is selected to tally the vote and act as arbitrator. The nobles vote in order of seniority. Eventually the vote gets to you. The tally so far is 4 for Hannah and 2 for Robin. There are still 7 votes after yours. I vote for myself. Dim. I vote for Hannah. Radio button. Checked. 2 of 3. I vote for Robin. Radio. Next button. Hannah nods after your vote. Next button. The next 2 nobles vote for Hannah. It is clear to everyone that she has won the vote. The last vote is only a formality. Next button. The last person to vote was Sir Von, an older knight. You only know him in passing. Von looks around the room before one of the nobles seems upset. He can't abstain, can he? Von looks at the noble. If this truly is a vote, then of course I can abstain. Next button. Princess Anna is coronated the following morning. The ceremony is quite elaborate and they give her a jewel-encrusted crown fit for a queen. You find the entire thing exciting. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 4. Boring. Radio button. Suspicious. Dim. Wrong, yet ironic. Next button. It is exciting and full of entertainment. It reminds you some of the great tournament. Next button. You think about staying in the capital a few more days when you receive a letter from Edict eagerly asking you to return. Apparently, there has been a bandit raid that has left several peasants dead. You are needed back in Redwood. Next button. When you arrive at Redwood, Edict is waiting for you. Next button. About time you came back, says Edict when you are close enough to hear him. So what took so long? Sorry, I'm late. I was just deciding the future of the realm. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 2. The king is dead. Long live the queen. Radio button. So the king is dead. Long live the next button. The king is dead. Long live the queen. Next button. What? Replies Edict. You quickly fill him in on what has taken so much of your time the last couple of days. Next button. So Hannah is queen now, says Edict, while rubbing his chin. Next button. You and Edict head toward the town hall. When you arrive, you ask Edict to fill you in on the situation in Redwood. Next button. Well, there is a large camp of bandits due east of here. Edict shows you a map of all the bandits attacked. A bit brazen, you reply, and then you point further south, them raiding so close to the capital. I suppose so, though from what I hear things are desperate. Next button. This camp, how big is it in terms of numbers? Edict displays a brutally drawn map given to him by a scout. Looks to be about 100 or so bandits. It is difficult to ascertain their numbers. What is the state of our defenses? You ask. Edict next button. Defenses 0/10. Next button. How many should we raise? Asks Edict. Text field 8. Next button. Edict nods. I'll make sure it is done. Next button. Later in the day, Edict informs you he has raised a militia of 84 men. That is not enough. Radio button. Very well. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 2. Next button. Current forces. Next button. Edict sends a messenger. However, he warns you that, due to bandit raids all throughout the realm, the likelihood of receiving reinforcements is low. Next button. Current forces. Next button. You decide to head home and get some rest. Next button. The next morning, a dozen soldiers come into town. Their leader is someone you recognize. Varys, exclaims Edict. What brings you to Redwood? Varys grins. I'm leading a patrol making sure bandits don't raid any more farms. I figured Redwood would be a good place to start, perhaps even serve as a home base. Excellent, we could use your forces, couldn't we, Charles? How do you respond? Of course. Radio button. Check. We are. Next button. Varys tells his men to unpack. He asks if there is a room available for him at the inn. Tell Edict to get him situated. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 2. Nonsense. Next button. Nonsense, you will stay at my home. Very. Next button. You see a rider come into town. He quickly dismounts and runs up to Edict. You look at Edict, wondering what's going on. Edict sees your look and responds, nothing, Charles. I ordered scouts to be sent if there was any bandit movement. Apparently, a large force of them headed southeast, at least 50 of them. Varys frowns. You mean near Willowdale? Not. We should send a force to intercept them. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 4. If they are heading that, do nothing. Radio. Next button. Eating nuts. I am sure Willowdale would appreciate that. I will get the troops ready. Next button. Enemy forces. Next button. You send all your forces to attack. Next button. Your forces clash. There are casualties on both sides. Next button. Enemy forces. Next button. You send all your forces to attack. Text field. Next but you send all your forces to attack. Next button. Your forces clash. There are casualties on both. Next button. Next text field. A50. Next. Tell them to keep it. Radio button. Accept the gifts. Radio button. Check the value. You defeat the raiders and successfully stop their raid on Willowdale. Several villagers are grateful for your assistance. They reward you with trinkets and various. The value of the. Accept the gifts. Radio button. Tell them to keep it. Next button. You head back to Redwood. Next button. On the way back you notice smoke in the distance. Something is wrong. Next button. You see a large bandit group attacking Redwood. You lead the defense. Next button. AD click tech AD inst cash tornado 5 cash tornado cash defenses 0/10 defend send a wave of soldiers to attack. Radio button checked. Send a wave of focus on attack retreat. Radio focus on attacking retreat. Next button. Next button. You send a wave of soldiers to attack the bandits. Next button. Your forces clash. There are casualties on both sides. Next button. Enemy forces. Bandit. Your forces. Soldiers. 52. Focus on attack. Retreat. Radio. Focus on attacking the bandits leader. Dimmed. Radio button. Retreat. Next button. Retreat. Radio button. Check. Next button. Next button. No. Radio button. Yeah. Are you sure you? Yes. No. Radio button. Uncheck. Next button. Enemy forces. Band. Your forces. Soldiers. Militia. Heavy infantry. Defenses. 0. Defend. Send a wave of militiamen to attack. Radio button. Send a wave of militiamen to attack. Radio button. Send. Focus on attack. Retreat. Radio. Next button. You send a wave of militia to attack the bandits. Next button. Your forces clash. There are casualties on. Next button. Enemy forces. Bandit forces. Next button. You send a wave of Next text field. Cash. Next button. Next button. Enemy forces. Bandit. Your force. Militia. Heavy infantry. Defense. Defend Red. Send. Focus on attacking the bandits leader. Dimmed. Radio. Retreat. Radio button. Unchecked. Next button. Retreat. Radio button. Checked. Next button. Are you sure you want to Yes. Radio button. Check. No. Radio. Next button. Restore purchases. If you've already buy it now for $3 to find out what happened. Remember earlier how we told you that the first part. Screen recording in progress button.